Hi everybody, let's talk about the Black History fact of today. We're going to be talking about Bishop Hurst Adams, who was Seattle's first African American Methodist Episcopal FAME church from 1968 to 19 from 1962 to 1968. Sorry, and he was a leader in the civil rights movement. And hold on. So he was born in South Carolina, Columbia. He has three siblings, and he comes from a spiritual background as well. And they studied, church life, and they were very active and stuff like that. His father was also an African Methodist Episcopal minister and social activist who in the 1920s organized the first Negro Bank in Columbia and the first statewide civil rights organization in South Carolina. So none of these activities went unnoticed by a young age of John. I mean, you are a product of your environment, right? And it inspired him. And later on, it kind of fueled his commitment to those organizations. And let's get into it further. So he did experience segregation, and he went to Columbia school system and graduated from Booker T. Washington High School in 1947. His undergraduate work was completed at Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he earned a degree in history. 5 years later, after studying at the Boston University School of Theology, he received a Bachelor of Sacred Theology. And by 1956, he had earned his Master's of Sacred Theology there as well. So while at the university, he befriended Martin Luther King Jr., who was also pursuing his PhD at the time in systematic theology. He became an apostle of King and his doctrine of nonviolence. Adams also studied at Harvard University and Union Theology Seminary. So as he was pursuing and being a seminary student, he was assigned to pastorate of Bethel AME Church in Lynn, Massachusetts. He served on the seminary teaching faculty at Payne Theological Seminary at Wilberforce University in Ohio. In 1956, he became president of Paul Quinn College in Waco, Texas, and also served as campus pastor to all the students. So in 1962, this is when things turn and gets a little bit stronger when it comes to his activism. So Adams came to Seattle as a pastor for the First African Methodist Episcopal Church, FAME, and began his ascent as a national leader. So he was known for his teachings and being blunt about actually what's happening in society, what's happening in the environment, and that kind of put people on guard and like shielded. And his ministry was new, it was different. A lot of people weren't being as blunt in their ministry as his technique was. So the white community labeled him as a troublemaker. Not too long afterward, he became a leader of the civil rights movement in Seattle and had earned the respect of both black and white communities. His articulate assessment of the race problems and his passionate belief in the potential of the city were the sparks that ignited one of the most successful movements in the country. He was the key spokesman for black people during the height of the movement in Seattle. So let's move on to what actually occurred in Seattle and his influence. So he also chaired at the Central Avenue Civil Rights Committee. It was made up of heads of all the local civil rights organizations, ranging from Congress of Racial Equality, Walter Hungley, double ACP, Charles Johnson, and E. June Smith, to Seattle Urban League, Edwin T. Pratt, who was murdered on the doorstep of his home in 1969. The committee was forceful and unique because it made a unified front pressing for citywide racial reform, and it was determined that the local civil rights agenda was going to be met. So Adams also co-founded the Central Avenue Motivation Program, so the country's first war on poverty agency. So in 1963, he led a march downtown for equal employment. He led the fight for an open housing ordinance in 1964 and 1966. So he spearheaded the school boycott to force integration in the Seattle public schools. He served on the Model Cities Planning Board and watched the agency become a model for the rest of the nation. You hear that? Rest of the nation. That means the United States. His influence spread as he was appointed to the governor's urban affairs committee, United Good Neighbors Planning Committee, and to the boards of the Council of Churches and the YMCA. So among his awards during this period were the Man of the Year Award by the Seattle chapter and Man of the Year Award by the Seattle Urban League in 1965. So the other agency was the chapter of Benai. Just want to give you guys the accurate information. So he traveled to Watts, which is my hometown, one of the cities that I had such a good experience as a child growing up there, the time that I did live there. But he was appointed Grant AME Church and I also was baptized there, so this is special to me. 3 years after the riot, he became involved in the NAACP activities and led a freedom patrol based on his Seattle experience. So his thrust was program, however not protest. He launched the Education Growth Organization in the Black church ethnic schools and published a curriculum which spread to 6 other churches in the city. With the purpose of developing pride and academic excellence, the Grant AME School for middle school students was held every Saturday morning with free breakfast and lunch. The curriculum included mathematics, English, and Black history, which is so needed in today's time as well. He continued his civil rights movement and also growing in the space of churches and influencing people and being a part of a broad boards and different activities and community involvement and things of that nature. And he still preached in the manner of being truthful about what's going on in the environment, talking about race, having difficult conversations, and how to move forward in those spaces and provide actual education and programs that could help promote and combat all of those elements that make it hard for African Americans. So yeah, that is the history on him, on Adams Bishop Hurst, John Hurst.